So I
Okay.
wanted to welcome you all to Orlando Impact, our podcast, in which we're featuring very successful folks that we've met in the community that are kindred, that has accomplished success in their businesses as well as in their lives, and really seeing the connection of how they can use that platform to be able to help others. So Dino Rachiele is here with us today. Dino, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And I want to ask you a question. Tell us a little bit about your story. How did you start out in this very specific area of business? You're doing very, very beautiful custom work when we look at your custom sinks that you have created and help some folks with. But tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, I started out early as a kitchen designer, and I've always had a knack for seeing opportunities that most people miss. And as a kitchen designer, my focus was on ergonomics and function and efficiency. But when I got to the kitchen sink, there wasn't a sink out there that made any sense. And I thought, why is nobody building a single bowl sink with a rear corner drain? So I went around to all the manufacturers and said, hey, if you do this, I think it's going to be a hit. Nobody was interested. I thought, all right, got to do this myself. So that's how I got into the business.
Wow. Wow, that's kind of interesting, right? So the moment there's not a solution around you, you're saying, I'm gonna take the baton and I'm gonna create the solution. So what was the greatest challenges for you if you think back? Do you know how long have you been in business now?
21 years.
21 years. Wow. So if you take us back here to say the first 5 years of stepping out, becoming entrepreneur, probably your dad is saying, Dino, you're crazy. Maybe your dad was a business owner. He said, go for it, Dino. But you're making the insecure decision, right? You're picking the entrepreneurial route. What were some of the biggest challenges back then that you faced that ultimately brought you to enough momentum to create success?
Well, I started this very early in the internet days, so there was no one to ask a question of. um, I was working as a kitchen designer. I believe I had my own business at that time. And I was a single dad with 3 children. And I managed to make a website on Microsoft Word and made a couple sales. And I thought, oh, I need to quit my job and do this because this looks like it's exciting and I might be able to do well with it. So I did that with a mountain of credit card debt and did extremely well with my very first online business, which I sold everything. I sold ceiling fans, light fixtures. It was called Luxury Home Products and did unbelievably well. And then I got into this, building sinks about a year and a half into that. And most of my focus originally was on that big business I was running it out of my house. It was a multi-million-dollar business. I had 18 phone lines coming into my house and people working everywhere. And then I realized this is really the business that I like because I'm changing people's lives. I'm making things easy for them. I'm giving them more time. You can't make time, but you can save time. So my sink designs, I'm finding, especially through a lot of feedback, save people anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes per meal. That adds up to dozens and dozens and dozens of hours at the end of every year. It's like a free vacation by buying a sink.
Wow.
So that's what got me going into this. But what was really difficult in the beginning is I didn't know how to build a website. I didn't know how to start a business. And I had no business plan, didn't know how to do that. I still never had a business plan. Business plan was to succeed. So
Survive.
no matter what. So I had to do it all myself. I had to learn how to build websites and I didn't have anyone to ask any questions. My father was a doctor in psychology. So he didn't have a real business background. So I couldn't even ask my father for help. So it was go it alone and make a lot of mistakes and learn fast.
Yeah. How did you overcome? How did you overcome maybe some of your difficult times, maybe some turning points? How did you just persevere and overcome?
I think I, a lot of my friends, especially my wife, says I have a quick draw attitude. The gun comes out really fast. I make decisions without thinking them through, sometimes very carefully. And I honestly, I don't have a problem with that because I know I'll make mistakes, but if I make enough fast decisions, one of them's going to stick. So and do well. So that's basically what I've done. If I see a problem, I immediately change course and do something different to overcome the obstacle.
Take quick action, be decisive.
Yes. Take
That's fantastic.
unbelievable risks.
Yes,
Yeah, it's been
yes.
an amazing roller coaster ride.
I understand. What do you see as the greatest opportunity for you to make an impact to your family or community with your business that you would like to capture? How do you see that?
Well, my goal has always been to share with my family and my favorite charity here locally. Well, and the police department. We've helped them out in the schools, I should say a school, a middle school. I've helped out there. Um, Interesting story about me getting involved in the charity. It's called Loaves Fishes. It's here in Apopka, Florida, and they 4 days a week they um, um, give food to people in need. A big grocery basket full of food, and at the time that I thought I wanted to help out, I was making an incredible amount of money. And I thought, it's really easy to write a check. That's the easy thing to do. I'm
Yes.
going to go volunteer. So I went in and they said, oh boy, we could definitely use you on Tuesdays. And I thought to myself, like all day Tuesday? They said, no, it's just for 4 or 5 hours. And I'm thinking, all right. So I left the meeting thinking, oh my God, what did I get myself into? This is awful. So I go the first day, and after that first day, I could not wait to go back the next Tuesday.
Wow.
It was incredible. The people that came in, it was shocking to me how happy they were. These are people that are down and out, that are having to come in and ask for food for their family, but they were all happy.
Hmm.
It was so uplifting. Tuesday was my uplifting day, and the volunteers were incredible. I did that for about 8 or 10 years, and then I became the vice president of the organization, and I forget how many years ago it was, but we were having some difficulties with my business, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I need to work like 12-hour days on my business to keep it afloat. And but I've been very involved with them. We do give them monthly donations. And they're just an incredible organization.
That is fantastic. I hear that often from our guests. It's like when you couple your treasure with your time, and especially if you can give to a community impact where you also can bring your talent. And a lot of times for business owners, it's the way we think, it's the quick draw, as you said, it's a
Mhm.
decision making. Often, if we can help maybe the leaders of an organization that's a non-profit organization, with business thinking. But in any case, when there's overlap between our time and our treasure, or there's overlap between our time and our talent, or two of the three brings joy up substantially. But ultimately, if you can combine all three of them, then the joy goes absolutely through the roof. And it's interesting, I could see it on your face, the amount of joy that you received and inspiration you receive when you're seeing like, hey, my life counts, my business counts, we can make a difference, right?
Yeah, what I think was surprising to me, I expected the gift of my time to be my burden of doing this, but I never realized the opposite was true, that I got back more than I gave. It's like I kept trying to give, like, so that it would be a chore or something that was difficult, but it was just the opposite. It was absolutely an amazing 10 years. And I just realized I do help them a lot with their website stuff, and I monitor and take care of their Facebook and set them up so they can get online donations, which I had no idea how big that was for them until our last meeting. They said that they get a tremendous amount of online donations based on what I built for them to be able to receive that.
That's fantastic. I can see on the internet, and I can see how well you've done a display of your different work, that you have the gift for that. So I want to come back to the business if I could. What
Mhm.
relationships has been the most important for you while you were growing your company?
Whew, easily my employees. I've been uh, I, I've been blessed with many amazing employees, especially right now. I believe I have the best group of employees I've ever had, by far. Um, and then, of course, the relationship I have with my vendors. Um, we've always had, or I've always had, a policy of paying bills that were even due in 30 days on day one. I've done that through my whole career. Um, and I've done that, and I think that's a smart move for any business if they can afford to do that, because it sets you apart from everyone else that they do business with. And the companies are more likely to favor you when a judgment needs to be made on something, whether they should do it or not for me, kind of thing. I don't call on favors very often. It's very, very rare. But when I do, they always say, "Oh, we owe you guys so much." Yeah, whatever you want, kind of thing. And that's helpful in business.
That makes sense. It's kind of counterintuitive, because in business mostly the cash flow game is being played. Hold off on your payables, get your receivables in as quick as possible. But when you do the opposite, you get repaid in so many more ways and times, and your vendors are willing to work with you. So that's a great point. It's you're doing something very different there, that what the business school teaches people to do, right?
Yeah, there's something else that I've done in all the businesses that I've had, is I've always had a closed down number, meaning that if I shut my business down today, I can pay all my bills promptly. And when
Interesting.
if you recall, I very quickly closed down my um, cabinetry design business to get into the internet.
Yes.
And every single vendor that I had called me and said, "We've never had a company close down and prompt pay their bills on their way of closing down." They said, "Usually we have to chase them for the money, but you paid early." And
Yes.
to me, that is the right way to do business. You should never be in business where you can't pay your bills. It's just not the, that's time. Before you get to that point, you need to realize
Hmm.
you've made some bad business decisions. It's time to close,
Yeah, I
do
love what
something
you.
else.
I love what you're saying. In planning, we talk a lot about for individuals to have an emergency reserve fund, liquid cash. And then we talked to our business owners about having a liquid cash account inside their business. And then you took it a step further and you said, okay, the size of that liquid cash in my business is going to be my closed down number, that says that
Mhm.
if I need to shut this business down, I'm going to preserve my legacy, my reputation, and I'm not going to walk away from not paying people. But I can see the wisdom of that. That's very, very wise, because it also gives you, probably during this COVID time, that things were kind of going sideways or crazy. It gave you the level of comfort that there's enough cash in the business that you will be able to sustain, right?
Correct.
I
Yeah.
love that, Dino. That's fantastic advice to our listeners. I love that. Another question for you. In your experience, what has uniquely worked for you to grow your business? What were the big growers in the way that you were able to grow your business? What's worked for you?
One-on-one contact with every single customer. Um, and I'll explain that. People typically do not order on my website. In fact, I discourage them from doing that. I want them to call and talk to me so I can walk them through the process. And I find that I build sometimes lasting relationships with many of my customers. I mean, we're a small company. We only build 500-600 sinks a year. We're up to about 11,300 sinks over the period of the 21 years or so. But what I found is that we were actually forced to stop advertising in 2010 because of all of the referral business. Now it's a combination of referral business and a tremendous amount of repeat business. So by treating people well, becoming friends with them, we have, in many cases, when someone calls to order a sink, they think they're going to be on the phone for 5 or 10 minutes. Very often it's an hour and a half. And we're not always talking about sinks. We're talking about life. We're talking about their project. We're talking about the COVID thing now. But I just like to talk to people. My parents nicknamed me Mr. Talkaholic when I was a little kid. And so this is a perfect job for me. I'm on the phone all day.
That's fantastic. I've always found that the most profound things in life are sometimes they sound like the most simple things. And a lot of times people tune out when these things have been said, especially if it's been said over and over again. And I feel every time I hear a successful business owner that we interview say these things, a lot of times people just say, well, I've heard that before. But I hear the power, and I'm just going to say it again. What I'm hearing you saying is, I legitimately care about my people. I love on them. I build relationships. The referrals that has come from that has been absolutely tremendous. And then the best client you can have is a client that comes back. It's repeat clients. And that's predominantly been the biggest driver. So doing the right thing, building relationships, treating people like people, loving on them, just is really, really, really good for life. It's really, really good for business as well, right?
Yeah, I have extremely high expectations of other businesses when I do business with them. And sometimes they're far too idealistic. I hold everyone to my standards, okay? Um, but I treat my customers the way I would want to be treated. And I have very, very high standards. I answer the phone at least 12 hours a day,
Wow.
7 days a week, because I don't want someone on a Sunday or a Saturday with a question that's going to hold up their project having to wait till Monday to get an answer. Not when you're buying what is considered the finest sink in the world. No, they should get an answer instantly.
Yes. I'm also hearing something that you just said. You have a natural desire and gift to, we're going to call it the gift of the gab, right? Or the desire to talk to
Oh yeah.
people, as your parents have said. And you structured your company in such a way that you are operating in your biggest area of gift. And it is
Yes.
the relationship and the talking with customers and clients. I can see why you're successful. But that's very smart. We call that identifying your unique ability and then operating in your unique ability by creating your business in such a way that you get that opportunity as the business owner to do so. So for our listeners, again, that's just a very strong key is what is your unique ability? That's a big question that people, normally don't know about. And there's again tools and assessments you could use to be able to figure that out. But intuitively, you knew your dad said it, your mom said it. Hey, you have the gift of the gab, and that's that relationship that ignites things for you. So as we look into the future, Dino, what do you see? What is your vision for your company in the next 3 to 5 years? What is it that you would like to accomplish in your business?
This is almost sad to say. I'm going to go back to when was it? 2000. When was 9/11? What year was that? Now I can't even remember.
It was in 2008.
2008. My business skyrocketed after that. I've never seen anything like it. And I realized at the time what was happening. People were scared to travel. They couldn't sell their homes. So they were stuck in their house and they wanted to remodel. So when people remodel, they pay more attention to the smaller things, the sink, the faucet, because that's what their focus is just the kitchen. When they build, the focus is on the entirety of the project, and getting people to focus or spend a lot of money on a sink is much more difficult. Well, I think we're there again in that exact same situation. And I'm already seeing it. Our business has skyrocketed over the past week, something I haven't seen in years. And I believe that this COVID thing is going to linger, and especially is going to distress the traveling market. I think a lot of especially wealthy people are going to think twice about hopping on a plane and going to Europe. Uh, Certainly not going to Italy. So I think until this passes, people are hunkered down at home. They've got the money to spend because they were going to go on the trip. Hey, let's remodel the kitchen. And I'm seeing that already.
That is very cool. That is very cool. Yes, we're seeing those trends. I was with a friend of mine that sells. He's a agency for Vermeer, and Vermeer sells a lot of times equipment to people in the tree business. And he's
Mm-hmm.
saying the same thing is going through the roof, and the only thing they can think of is people at home. They're looking at their yards and they're looking at that tree that they should have been taken care of,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a result of it. So I'm thrilled for you. It sounds like this is bringing more and more business to you, and that is absolutely fantastic. What a very, very impactful story. I really appreciate it. I could see absolutely how you came alive as you were talking about your business, your platform. Looking back over the last 21 years, would you do this again? Would you be an entrepreneur again if you had
Oh
the,
my
the
God.
choice?
Well, I've still got more ideas.
That's fantastic.
I
That,
started out as an entrepreneur. I realized later in life, in college, um, I used to go to aquarium stores and I noticed that they had these rocks in the aquariums. And this was in Pittsburgh, where I went to school at Duquesne University. And there was a side of the road where they had blasted, and there's these beautiful red and green shale rocks. I just loaded up my car and went around to aquarium stores, and I sold rocks for a year off the side of the road.
wow, wow.
Can make good money selling
Yeah,
rocks off the side of the road.
that's fantastic. My last question I have for you is it if you were to give advice to my audience, maybe summarize it in three, four uh, points, if you would, and I'm going to ask you this way. If you were to give our audience advice as to how to suck the marrow out of life, how to get the most out of your life, how to get the most out of your wealth, how would you state it, and what would of advice would you share with them?
That's easy. Um, do something that you love to do, that you have passion with, because and I know this is cliche. If you do that, you never work. I never work. Someone asked me when I was going to retire, and I said, from what? Having all this fun? It doesn't make sense to me. Anything that I can think of in retirement is not as much fun as this is for me. This is what I
Yes.
love to do. And two, um, do something with your gifts,
Mm.
charity, family, um, and don't forget about family. I've been blessed to be able to help my family, my sister and my parents quite a bit during this period. And that means that they don't have to ask for help outside the family. And I guess that's, and make sure, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, that you've married someone that's willing to go on the roller coaster ride with you.
That's wise. That's extremely wise. So make sure your
That's
wife.
important. Yeah, it's not easy. It is
Yes.
definitely not easy for the non-entrepreneur. It's a scary, scary ride. The highs are very high and the lows are very low. On a typical work platform where you're working for someone else, it's very steady. You know what the paycheck's going to be every week. You know when your vacations are. I took my first full week vacation, I think 3 years ago in my life.
Wow.
That was it.
Wow. Wow.
How do you give yourself a vacation?
It's
Nobody's ever
tough.
given me one, right?
The guy in the mirror is tough at times, right?
Yes. And that was my wife insisting on that. And it was lovely. It was very
Yes.
nice.
Awesome. Well, Dino, how can people get in touch with you? How do they reach out to you? Share with them, please, your website, your phone numbers, faxes, whatever. How can people get in touch with you?
Oh, thank you. My website is my last name, and it's RACHIELE.com. And everyone mispronounces it, including my family. We say Raquel, but it's Italian. It should be Rachiele. Um,
Raquel.
and my phone number is 407-880-6903, answered 12 hours a day by me.
Awesome. And folks, as we wrap up our time, I am staring at the website and I can tell you I'm seeing awesome, awesome sinks that are very time saving. I'm amazed. Uh, there's some remodeling projects in my future, and I can see some beautiful sinks in my future as well. So, highly recommend you take a look at those websites and give Dino a call. So, this concludes our time. Thank you so much for your time, Dino. I appreciate your story. And our time together. Thank you
Thank
again.
you. It was so nice meeting you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching the Life Wealth Group YouTube channel. We hope you found this video informative. If you have any specific questions as to what you heard today, don't hesitate to reach out to us for a complimentary phone call or meeting in person. Also, don't forget to subscribe.